Barry Vincent.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Built by Barry. You're in the business of making people be uncomfortable, be comfortable at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable because I got the dad bod right now. So tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into personal training, and what that's been like for you as a business owner now. If you can just take me back where it all began, that'll be great.
Well, it started out from like a lot of personal trainers, just my own desire to take control of like my health and my weight. I was a bigger kid in high school. Just didn't eat right, didn't take care of myself. I wasn't super active. Like I played football in high school, but that was probably the extent of like being fully involved in a sport for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then after high school, I went to school for broadcasting, and it was kind of during that time that I really got into just like going to the gym, working out at the college gym with my buddies, and I started losing a lot of weight. And then I just kind of became like, because it was very noticeable, like I kind of became the authority amongst my friends, like the ones that I would go to the gym with. They were asking me for advice because I seemed to be the one who was kind of taking it a little bit more seriously, right? Like, what are we doing at the gym today? Like I had these two buddies that I would go to the gym with every day, and I kind of became the guy who, like, what are we doing today? They would ask me, right? I would be the one coming up with the plans. And then one of the trainers at the gym one day kind of put it in my ear, like, have you ever thought about being a personal trainer? And this was kind of after I had gone to school for broadcasting. I was currently working in broadcasting. So I was driving out to Toronto like almost every day to work, and I was not enjoying it. Like there were aspects of working in television that I enjoyed, and in media work in particular that I enjoyed, like things that I would do as a hobby, like while I was into media, like editing videos and stuff like that. But I did not enjoy the work that I was doing in broadcasting, like as an assistant, you know what I mean? Like running around, getting coffee for people, the grind work, especially having to drive out to Toronto for like 5 a.m. and all that. So I did decide to go back to school. I moved out to North Bay for 2 years to get an actual education in personal training. Like I know a lot of personal trainers will take a weekend course or this or that, but I decided that if I was going to do this, because I also I knew that I couldn't go back to university because I think that I was like, probably around 24 or 25 at the time. I was like, I don't have the time to go back and get like a 3 or 4 year degree. But I found this course at Canada College in North Bay that was geared towards athletes, and it was like a college education. So I went back for 2 years and I got that, and I came back. I started working as a personal trainer at what was Premier Fitness at the time. I don't know if you remember Premier hanging around, kind of a shady business. But I worked there, and then I moved on.
They'll just redo you without even telling you to redo you, I think, at one point.
Yeah, and they were going
like
through all these name changes. They went bankrupt. I remember like the final straw was like, I think I had my most like lucrative month as a trainer, and I didn't get paid for it. That was when they like officially went bankrupt. And it wasn't until like 2 years later, this check just showed up in the mail from the government, and I finally got paid for that month of work. Like it was wild. And then I moved on. I worked locally at 5 Star Fitness, which I think
I've heard of that.
Recently also just got bought by a bigger company, Crunch Fitness. And then I moved into the private sector, and that was where I really got into working with athletes, which was kind of what I initially wanted to do. I think a lot of trainers do too. There's kind of just like this excitement around working with athletes, but unfortunately you can't really, it's hard to make a living as a trainer just working with athletes. As a lot of trainers find out very quickly, right? A lot of it is weight loss clients. That's where dare I say the money is made, but that's where people need the most help, right? Is with weight loss. So working in the private sector for a bit, training a lot of athletes. I had a group training program where I was kind of teaching women the ins and out of actual strength training and lifting weights, as opposed to all of these other group training classes and boot camps and yoga classes. I wanted to give women the option to actually learn how to lift weights and train properly and actually get strong, rather than just show up to the gym and move around and sweat, right? I mean, obviously sweating is nice, it's therapeutic, but it doesn't necessarily get you stronger, right? In terms of improving your quality of life outside of just losing weight. Right.
There's a science behind it. And
For sure.
You'll do a really good job explaining it. I'd like to ask you more about that. First thing you pointed out is your pain point, and you're very open about it. You mentioned growing up in high school, being a heavier kid and everything else. That basically started it all for you. talk about a little bit more of that, because I think a lot of folks, are very, insecure about their weight. I'm also insecure about my weight. I want to shed a couple pounds and more lean and everything else.
Yeah.
But talk about where that began for you as a young person. What was that's like? Were you picked on, or is it just kind of like you didn't feel good about how you looked and things like that? Or
It's I guess the best way to put it, I wouldn't say that I got bullied. I spent a lot of time in the friend zone. Right?
Gotcha.
Like I would get real close with girls, and it would never quite go anywhere. And
What a great
I
motivator.
couldn't say for sure that it was my weight.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I attribute it to, was my appearance. I wasn't really bullied for my weight.
Yeah.
I hung out with the quote unquote cool kids, and I was a pretty funny guy.
Yeah.
And I think that I just kind of understood that I was going to get teased about my weight sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I just kind of took my licks, because I was hanging out with I was quote unquote, one of the cool kids. I hung out with the more popular kids, and, just being a chunky kid in high school, that was just something that I was going to have to deal with sometimes.
Right.
Not super tall or anything like that. Right. So, yeah.
Well, especially today, when you think about just social media and just like, digital age, a lot of young people are focusing on their phones and things like that, not really getting out and active. I remember as a young person being out of the house by like 9 o'clock and not coming back to 10 o'clock and running around around the neighborhood. Yep. That's less of that. Do you also work with young people as well, or is it just is that your target market, or is it more of the adult clients that you deal with?
I have had I do not work with any children for like weight related goals. I have had the occasional parent reach out to me to help their kid get better at hockey or whatever it is. And I'm very, very particular about taking those kind of clients on, because I've worked with a lot of those clients, and those parents sometimes are just awful to work with, because they don't really understand like what they're asking you to do in helping their kid. They kind of just want to see their kid show up, and you just run their kid into the ground, and they're tired all the time. And they just have no general concept of like the recovery that their kid should be having, or what they should be feeding their kid, or what their kid actually needs to do in the gym to get better. It's like, your kid's already pretty fast on skates. Maybe we just focus on getting him a little bit stronger. So I'm going to help him lift weights, but I can't feed him. So you have to feed him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe you don't need to stop at Tim Hortons and get him like a bagel and cream cheese after every practice. Maybe there's something else you can do. Maybe you can make him a smoothie. Maybe there can be some effort on your part. I think they just wanted to be free of some of the accountability that goes with trying to raise an athlete. Right?
I could see that.
Yeah.
Being as a parent, I could see that. And so it kind of becomes difficult. That's interesting. That's interesting to know. And let's talk about more about now, like the science behind, conditioning and nutrition.
Sure.
Can you tell us about, there's the effort, like, going to the gym, doing what you need to do, but how much of that is nutrition? How much is that is important in your diet, in your plan in general?
I think it just depends, very much depends on what your goal is.
Yeah.
If your goal is weight loss, obviously nutrition is like the biggest factor, but you also want to make sure that you're spending your time in the gym in a way that's going to make your weight loss efforts sustainable. So that means maintaining your muscle mass, maintaining your lean tissue, you know what I mean? Being conscious of the fact that as you're losing weight, you don't want to lose muscle. You want the weight that you're losing to be fat. So to be body fat. So making sure that when you're in the gym, you are sending a signal to your body that you are making an effort to get stronger, telling your body that it needs this muscle that you have. So let's try our best not to give it up, because obviously if you are trying to lose weight, you need to be eating less calories than you're burning. And if you're not conscious of your protein intake and making an effort again to get stronger, get progressively stronger in the gym, over time, your body doesn't really recognize, it's trying to adapt to the decrease in energy that you're giving it, and it does that by getting more efficient with energy. So it just starts to lose tissue. And if you're not telling it what tissue to lose, then it can start burning off muscle as well. And you don't want that, right? I know a lot of women, they don't put a priority on muscle, right? Or building muscle, which is totally fine. But for longevity and for quality of life, like being strong and having muscle is very important. And I think like the word muscle just gets associated a lot with
being bulky,
and being strong, and like gym
but muscle
culture.
burns more fat.
Burns more calories.
More calories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so are you do you have the philosophy of high intensity workout versus prolonged workout? What's your approach with that?
I would say it's somewhere in between. I'm a fan of giving people what they want, but also making sure that they're getting what they need. And a lot of people in the gym, they don't really understand like what it is that they need to do to achieve the goal that they have. So a lot of people have this idea that high intensity exercise is the way to go, to burn as much calories in the gym as you can in whatever time that you have. But you're not going to create the calorie deficit that you need through exercise alone. You can't. And a lot of people depend on devices like their Apple Watch or whatever to tell them how many calories they burn. But studies are showing that those watches can be like up to 90% inaccurate at telling
90% inaccurate.
Yeah, there are studies that show, and I'm not saying like your Apple Watch is 90% inaccurate, but you need to be aware that like, because people are burning all these calories in the gym, and then they're also making diet decisions based on how many calories their watch is telling them they're burning, right?
And then
like,
they're just going to faint
if
they're over or under, right?
Sally goes to a boot camp class and her watch tells her that she burns 600 calories. Okay, let's go get some brunch. You know what I mean? I earned this now.
Right.
And it's like, I'm all for enjoying food and things like that, but you have to.
And then the Barry method would be how do you track that?
I get
less
people
technology?
No, I just use technology in a different way.
Okay.
So I use technology. I use technology one way to deliver and track the people that I work with, their workouts, both in person and online. And I also use technology to help people track their calorie and their macronutrient intake, particularly calories and protein.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we come up with a number of calories basically based on their activity and their body weight and their height, and a number for protein based on the same. And then we try to adhere to that, not just on a daily basis, but on a weekly and a monthly basis, because once you have the number and you have somebody tracking what they're eating, it's very cut and dry. If the scale isn't moving, you know why.
Right. Accountability, you know what I mean? Right there. And then that's directly, obviously that data points are right to you. And do you use like some sort of app for that? Or
I use a software, software called Trainerize. So I just license it and then I use it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Does that also include a meal plan as well? Or suggestions?
Suggestions. And then I also have like tons of resources as far as like, I don't do custom meal plans, because what a lot of people don't really know is it's actually fairly illegal for personal trainers to prescribe a meal plan if they're not know that, if they're not a registered dietitian.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of registered dietitians get very upset about that.
Yeah.
But also giving somebody a meal plan doesn't really teach them anything. And in my experience, it doesn't help them lose the weight long term, because what happens is you have this calorie goal that this person needs to hit. And so for me, if I design this meal plan, I design this meal plan daily based on the number of calories that this person needs to hit. So 7 days a week, they're hitting this number, or ideally they're hitting this number. So let's just say, for example, the number is 1,500. Monday to Thursday, they hit 1,500. But then Friday, Saturday, Sunday comes and we're at like 1,800, 1,900, 2,000. The daily average goes up, right? So I'm sure you've heard the term calorie deficit, right? So if you're going to be in a calorie deficit, you can't just be in a calorie deficit day to day. It has to be week over week, like month over month. You have to average your intake. Your daily intake has to hit those numbers. So if we're going 1,500 Monday to Thursday, but then Friday to Sunday, like I said, you're up like 2,000 or whatever, it brings that daily average up and it takes you out of the calorie deficit that you need to lose weight.
Gotcha. Man, there's a lot of information right there.
It is a lot of information, and it makes it sound complicated, but the truth is like...
But that's why you're there. Yeah. That's why you're there, right?
It's hard, but it's simple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not losing weight and you are trying to lose weight, if you feel like you're doing everything right in the gym, 99% of the time, it is because in some way you are consuming too much calories. And even one thing that I talk to people about is like the difference between like working out and exercising for health purposes and working out and exercising for weight loss purposes. Like there is a lot of crossover.
Oh, tell me more about that.
There's a lot of crossover,
Yeah,
for sure. But if you are waking up in the morning and you're having, like a lot of people like to have like a smoothie bowl or oatmeal. So you have this smoothie bowl and it's got protein powder and honey, sugar, and peanut butter, and chia seeds and this and that. And it's like 600 or 700 calories. And if you're a woman who we're trying to say you need to be around like 15 or 1600 calories on the entirety of the day, you're having over a third of that for breakfast alone. It's going to be very hard for you over the course of the week to maintain that calorie deficit that you would need to lose weight. Right. So that's a healthy meal loaded with nutritional value and fiber and protein and all of those things. But you have to be conscious of your portions if you want to lose weight.
Gotcha.
Right.
The more you put in, I mean, the less result that you're going to see. Interesting. And so what is your business model? Are you in the gym with your clients or are you online? I think you have 2 offerings there, which is interesting.
It's both. So I do like, I think right now, probably about 25 to 30 hours a week of in-person training, and I just do it out of my house. So I have a studio at my house.
Nice.
Yeah. I do that. I do a little bit of like semi-private training. So I have some people, they do it 2 at a time. It's not the biggest space, but it's got everything. And then the rest of it is online, just one-on-one online coaching.
And then they'll be just working out, you know, FaceTime and you go back and forth, you do this kind of thing? Or?
No aspect of it is like live in person. Well, there might be the odd call.
Yeah.
But the workouts are delivered in a way that's very easy for them to follow. There's instructional videos associated with every exercise, like the sets, the reps, the exercises is all there for them. And they go through it step by step. And then we take control of accountability through checking in weekly, just ongoing conversations, obviously, with everybody. They can reach out with questions whenever they want. And just providing them with the other resources that they need. Like a lot of people like recipes, you know, smoothie recipes or easy breakfast, lunch, meal prep ideas. And then obviously the calorie and the macro tracking as well. So they're using an app to record all of those things, and all of that information is coming through to me so I can see it, assuming that they are doing it.
Yeah. That counts.
Which is a whole other animal
in itself.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And I know you've trained athletes as well. Can you just talk about a little bit more of that? Like we've trained in the past, and what's that like? It's a little different, I gather. I mean, they're normal human beings, just like anybody else, but they must have a different, more aggressive plan that you have to put together for the most output, because they are pros, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you can push them a little bit harder probably than you would push most people. Yeah. You have to be very aware of what they're doing when they're not in the gym, right? Because they're on the ice all the time. If you're talking about professionals, they're almost always dealing with some kind of injury that you have to work around. Their hips are a mess. Their shoulders are a mess. And when I say a mess, it's just you have to be conscious of the exercises that you're putting them through. Like you're not going to get, like a lot of them, you don't want to do too much overhead stuff. Their shoulders are beat up. You don't want them to move their hips in a certain way. You just want to get them stronger, but also keep them healthy, right? Because the last thing that you want to hear is one of your professional athletes texts you the next day and says, I think I messed up my hip yesterday.
Devastating. Yeah. Yeah. And as far as communicating what you've put together with their trainer, with their team, do you have that communication line with them, or did they share that on their own?
It's you check in, but it's not there's not a ton of correspondence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Basically you'll check in, and it's been a while since I've been in the space, like the professional space. Yeah. But generally at the beginning of the off season, you're checking in with that individual to see kind of how their exit meeting went. And then as you get closer to the season, you check in and see like maybe what they should be focusing on for camp. Maybe they had a new strength and conditioning coach come in. Maybe the testing that they're going to do preseason is different. So you need to be aware of that. Yeah. Is the guy a veteran? Does he even need to worry about that? Because if they've been in the league for a couple of years, they probably don't need to worry too much about performance testing, you know what I mean? Like chin-up tests and push-up tests and things like that. If they're a veteran, like they're going to make the team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they've been around.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about running a personal trainer business. What's that like?
It's very much like, at least for me, I've kind of just been flying by the seat of my pants, to be perfectly honest with you. My business is a result of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the gym that I was working at, they did not go out of business. They decided to downsize. And a big part of what I was doing at that gym required space, because I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was doing that program with women. And I had a pretty good schedule as far as personal training clients went, but that program was a big part of what I did. So when they decided to downsize, it was kind of like, okay, if you're going to come, we can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And during COVID, I don't know if I should say this, but I was working.
You say it.
I was training clients out of my home,
Yeah.
right? When I wasn't supposed to be.
Probably the healthiest thing that they can do
100%.
during COVID. Let's be honest.
We can get into that if you want.
Yeah.
But for sure, like people need to be moving. They need to be working out. So we were doing that in the basement, probably to the chagrin of my boss at the time. But
you did what my barber did.
Yeah. I did what my barber did too, for sure. Actually, the barber that I go to now, it's in his garage.
Yeah.
He's got a sweet little barber shop.
You know, I always say, like, you know, business owners in general, especially in your space during COVID, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
Well, because you just don't know why, right?
Yeah.
And you couldn't find the answers as to why. And as time went on, and I'm not anti anything, you know, but I mean, as time went on, it seemed like we got further away from the answers. There was just more rules and less explanation for the rules.
Right.
And the evidence was saying that the things that you thought you should be able to do, you should be able to do. You know what I mean? Exercise and, you know, the endless evidence that exercising and sunlight are great to combat COVID, you know, like
we're just spitting facts for anyone that's offended.
The videos are going to have the little label at the bottom.
Yeah.
I kind of lost my train of thought.
No. I think that, you know, with COVID, it's a blessing in disguise for many, I think, especially in your field. It pushed you to say, you know what, see you later. Let me do my own thing.
Yes. And I am still very much figuring out like the back end of things, and tax time is a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So, you know, we try to do a little bit better with that every year.
There's growing pains, you know, with any business, you know, which just gets better and better each year. But, you know, it's kind of, you know, I do want to say, like, your marketing, what I've checked, it's really good, and you do all your marketing. Has that, you know, being a, you know, from a broadcasting background helped you to basically do it all on your own?
It definitely helps. It's time consuming.
Yes.
But so I think it's also important as time goes on that I am figuring out ways to automate the side parts of my business that I do not enjoy, which I haven't quite got around to yet. Yeah. But, you know, like the back end systems and things like that, and things that I can automate so that I will have more time to create content, which is something that I like doing and providing value.
You're really good at it, man.
Thank you.
You're really good at it.
I read, it's actually a book that I read called The Go-Giver.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the book, but it's just basically the general theme of the book is a lot of stories that basically just explain the importance of being authentic and just providing as much value as possible. Because when I was a younger trainer, and I think that's still very prominent in training, is a lot of the content that you see coaches put out is almost to impress other trainers.
Really?
Just demonstrating, you're trying to demonstrate how smart you are. And I think that demonstrating how smart you are like doesn't help people if they don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't want to say that I don't try to dumb things down, but I try to make things just as digestible as possible and very cut and dry.
Layman terms, man. Yeah, like you're the expert.
Yeah.
And I'm not the expert. I'm not going to know every terminology.
Yep.
So if you're going to take the time to see that and notice that and make sure that I understand it in my where I'm at.
Yeah,
I think that's a plus.
Well, I think you have to be careful in telling people that they're wrong and telling people that they don't know what they're talking about. I think that that's a slippery slope. Like in fitness, people can be very specific about terminology and things like that. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard, like, women like to throw around the word toning, for example, right? Some trainers will tell you, like, toning's not a real word. Like, you can't actually tone a muscle. And I'm like, I don't know why you would tell somebody that they're wrong when they tell you that they want to tone, you know,
I get it.
When somebody tells me that they want to tone, I know exactly what
They're
they
trying
mean.
to get a little bit leaner, you know, right?
They want to reveal the muscle that they have under the fat that they have.
Right.
That's it. And if there's a single word that you can use to describe that, then I don't know why you would need to tell somebody that they're wrong or to make them feel inferior to you because they don't. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of that.
And that's the thing. And that's where it separates you from the pack, you know, the personality side of things. No one wants to work with anybody that's arrogant. And things that they're highly of them. I in my opinion, I think that's just, you're backpedaling, you're doing yourself a disservice and that person.
And you have to the things that you can like relate to people on, you really gotta,
especially in this space, dude,
go all in on that. And I think that that's just another thing that a lot of coaches struggle with is like, they live at the gym. A lot of younger coaches, like I don't consider myself a younger coach, but like they live at home. Their parents do their groceries. They like the gym is their life, and they're telling people with 2 kids and a full-time job that they need to get up early or meditate or jump in a pool of ice, which is very cool right now. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's a saying that you said, you know exactly who you're after. It's adults who are parents who have kids. Because I think you're a parent.
I am.
And so you kind of just carved that target market. How's that been for you?
The majority of my clients are parents. So it's worked out pretty well in that
understand
sense.
them.
But I think any personal trainer would probably tell you that the majority of their clients are adults who have children. That's just the way of the business. Right. For sure. So yes, I get it's helped. Certainly, I wouldn't say that gearing myself towards that crowd has helped me grow my business, but it has certainly helped me build a community of people who can relate to the things that I'm saying. And that's what I try to do. Like I said, like I just try to give people value. Like I don't want there to be secrets. You know what I mean? I don't claim to have like some secret method that if you pay me money, you will know what that is, because I fully well understand that the information is there for anybody who wants it. There's no magic way to lose body fat, no matter what. And it's crazy that people still look for that. You know what I mean? They still look for that secret method. It's just not there. So
it's all work.
We know that the information is there. What people need is they need support and they need accountability. So I can give value and provide people with the information in the most digestible form possible. If they are able to take that information and use it on their own, for sure, you could go on my Instagram, and if you pull the information from it, you could go off and you could lose 100 pounds on your own if you do it. But most people don't. So,
and that's just it. That's just it. I give free advices all the time, but the value, people come back for the value and the hand holding, really. And what is one of the biggest what you hear most often for a parent that's doesn't have a lot of time? I'm sure time management is a big one, but what's your rebuttal to that? The complaint, the excuse?
I think it just doesn't take as much time as people think.
Okay,
that would be the thing. Like obviously, if you have more time, that's great. But I think everybody can carve out 20 or 25 minutes if you have the stuff at home, whatever it is, dumbbells or whatever it is you want to use to exercise. Like you really only need to carve out 20 or 25 minutes if you know how to use that time. You know what I mean?
So you condition the body, but how do you condition the mind with your clients? Because that's another beast of itself.
Well, I think in that sense, like, if somebody is coming to me, we've already kind of solved that problem. Like if you're coming to me, you're basically saying, I have the time to do this. You know what I mean?
So you have a filter process, and see if it's
I wouldn't say that, but it's like if you're coming to me and saying that you want to work with me, I would assume that you're probably also assuming that you are going to have time to exercise. Because like, what can I do for you if you don't have the time?
But once they get into the process, and maybe they're kind of falling back in certain habits and things like that, and the results are not showing, you have data points to reverse back and to keep them accountable.
Yep, for sure. So then we would look at why do you think you've fallen off, right? It
Yeah.
always starts with them. I don't make suggestions as to why they've fallen. I mean,
Yeah.
after we've gotten the conversation going, but
Yeah.
I want ideas to come from them as much as possible.
Love
So
that. Yeah.
I try to ask questions that will cause them to come up with solutions, right? So try to guide the conversation so that they are the ones kind of coming up with the ideas, even if I had a little bit of influence on it, right?
Yeah.
Kind of lost my train of thought there.
What about, do you do any seminars for because there's a good following now, I see. Do you do seminars from time to time or plan into it?
I have.
Yeah.
And then my buddy Mo, who is Falafel Poppy, you know Falafel Poppy?
Oh, yeah.
You should get, if you're
Yeah?
looking,
Where's he out
he's
of?
somebody, he does like gluten-free catering,
Oh,
basically.
okay.
So he does a lot of like local events. He sets up like dinners. He does like soup, like does soup for the homeless, like sets up
Oh,
stuff
wow.
in the park.
So it's like Mediterranean type of food company he has?
He
or?
does a lot of stuff, actually.
Yeah.
He does like these really good like gluten-free chicken wings
Yeah.
that he's known for. He's gotten into doing cooking seminars and
okay.
like a meal prep service. He's got a lot on his plate, maybe too much.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk to him about it.
Yeah.
But he invited me to he's doing a cooking class that is geared towards like simple meals, healthy meals, for more like a fitness crowd. So he's invited me to take some of that time to do a little bit of a
Love
seminar.
that. That's a great strategic
nutrition.
partnership there. Yeah.
So I'm pretty, we're friends. So
Yeah. Is he your client too, or?
no, he's actually not.
Yeah.
It's one of those relationships that just kind of started over Instagram through some
Yeah.
mutual friends and mutual connections. You just kind of start jumping on each other's content, and then the next thing you know, like we've hung out a couple times now
Right.
and stuff like that.
That's
So
cool. No,
yeah.
I'd love to bring him on. Absolutely.
it's hard to find new friends in your 30s.
Yeah. Yeah. It's family first, and then everything else is extra.
Yes.
You know, no, I get it, man. I get it. So, that's so you've gotten this business going now. Where do you want to take it from here? Do you want to open up a gym eventually, or you already have the space at home too, right? So, but do you see it kind of growing into a bigger space, or?
I would like to grow the online side of my business first.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I don't want to say most of my effort, but like in terms of when I'm working on my business, I'm working on the online side of things.
Gotcha.
I mean, if I was to move into a space, like a gym space, I just don't really know exactly what I would do with that at this point.
Right.
It's a fun idea. I also don't like the idea of like retail lease. I know like what the costs of that look like,
Right.
especially because I wouldn't want to leave my neighborhood.
Right.
I know what those costs look like in my neighborhood. I've looked into it. It's not
fun. Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
If the opportunity came about to do it,
Yeah.
maybe. But right now, no, just trying to grow the online, because what I've also noticed is as I build out the online side of my business, because a lot of the software and things like that I use in the online side of my business, I also use with the in-person side of my business, like in terms of tracking those people's workouts and things like that. It just helps me provide a better service overall.
Right. Technology has been a positive.
Oh, it's crazy.
Add value to your business.
Yep.
Seems like.
With the business, and then obviously the benefits that it has on content creation and things like that.
Yeah.
It's only getting crazier with all this AI stuff now.
I
too,
know.
so.
We were just talking about that actually with my previous guest, and it's I've used it a couple times. It's very useful. Chat GPT, I believe.
Yep.
You heard of it? Yeah. It's interesting. It's gonna get more interesting as time goes on. So
and it's very important, I think, too. Like if you are somebody whose job you feel like you don't. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say. Whatever creative aspects there are to your job, if you're not currently focusing on those things,
right,
you need to focus on those things.
100%.
You need to focus on like the personal side of your job, because all of those things, those are the things that can't be replaced, and like all of the other aspects of your job can probably be replaced
100%.
pretty soon, probably better than you can do them.
Get ahead out of it.
Yeah.
Get out in the front of it and learn and how to adapt. You got to pivot.
Yep.
But yeah, man. So how do people get in touch with you, man? Like how does someone reach out to you who wants your service and wants to get to know you?
I am most active by far on Instagram. It's at Built by Barry, all one word.
Yeah.
And then I'm also on like Facebook and TikTok, but I do not repurpose my content on those platforms as much as I should. So if you are trying to find me, you can find me on Instagram. And then I think my handle on Facebook is Lift Binbrook, which is the name of my studio.
Nice.
In Binbrook.
Pretty much anybody from Ontario could reach out to you because you got that virtual side.
For sure.
Right? Yeah.
A lot of my online following is local to Hamilton, which is also cool. It just kind of creates, helps with like the community aspect of things, knowing that everybody's from the same city. And then if you're in like a circle of friends, you can run into your clients at certain functions and things like that.
Right. And word of mouth is much more effective. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was been lots of good information here to take, and I'll have you back very soon. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.